Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, cha, bonjour, namaste, jumbo. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Jedley, and this is Reading with Your Kids. We're beaming out from Reedville, the gem of Southwest Boston, Massachusetts, and we are so thrilled that you're here. At Reading with Your Kids, our mission is simple but powerful, to bring families together through the shared magic of books and stories. In every episode, we sit down with fascinating folks who are creating books that open hearts and spark imagination. Want to help us grow? Tell all your friends, your family, your kids' teacher, even the crossing guard, and remind them that they can hear us on the WREB AM/FM 24/7 radio network, and they can find us on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, Amazon Music, CastBox, Player FM, Audible. Wherever you find your favorite shows, you can find Reading with Your Kids. Two wonderful guests for you today. First up, Laura Lavoie. She's here to celebrate the 13 Doors of Black House. And later in the show, Shannon Lynn is celebrating the Vesta Chronicles Sun Chaser. This episode is brought to you by Zevo Life. Please visit zevo.life and use the promo code READ to receive 30% off your order. Are you looking for a clean, sustainable boost to your day? Something that'll keep you going from breakfast to bedtime story? Check out Zevo Life, a nutrient-packed microalgae that's taking the health world by storm. We're talking over 50% plant protein, essential nutrients, antioxidants, fiber, the whole superhero cape of daily wellness. And the best part, it only takes 1 teaspoon a day. Whether you're performing your best Gruffalo voice or hosting a family read-aloud marathon, Zevo Life gives you that extra energy to bring the characters to life. Head on over to zevo.life and use a promo code READ for 30% off. It's plant-based, eco-conscious, and backed by a 30-day risk-free guarantee. So head on over zevo.life, ZIVO.life, and use the promo code READ for 30% savings. Are you looking for a creative way to bond with your kids? Let me tell you all about Drawing with Your Kids, the ultimate destination for artistic adventures. Join us as we dive into the wonderful world of children's books with renowned illustrators guiding you step by step. From beloved characters to whimsical scenes, unleash your imagination and create cherished memories together. Whether you're a seasoned artist or just picking up a pencil, there's something for everyone at Drawing with Your Kids. Please visit our website, readingwithyourkids.com, and click on the Drawing with Your Kids link at the top of the page and let the creativity flow. Drawing with Your Kids, where every stroke brings stories to life. Join us right now from the great state of New York. Our guest is returning to Reading with Your Kids to celebrate her new middle grade novel. It's called The 13 Doors of Black House. Please welcome back to the show, Laura Lavoie. Hey, Laura, how are you?
Hi, I'm great. Thanks so much for having me back.
Happy to have you back on. You know, my daughter lives in Witch City, Salem, Massachusetts, and as soon as I saw the title of your book, it immediately reminded me of the House of Seven Gables.
Oh, I haven't heard of that. You know, I've always wanted to visit Salem, but I haven't gotten there yet.
It's don't go in October.
I've heard that.
Don't go anywhere. In fact, in October, the city of Salem, there are so many people that converge on Salem. They encourage residents to leave.
Wow.
They give them free rides on public transportation and free admission to all sorts of events and museums down in Boston, just anything to just relieve some of the congestion in the city.
Huh. I had no idea, but duly noted. I will remember that when I go to make sure that it is not in October.
Yes. And it's a great little city. There, of course, is fantastic history there. But it is a really cool spot with great places to eat, a very pretty harbor, and my daughter and her husband live there. So, you know, what more can you say?
Exactly.
So tell us about 13 Doors of Black House.
Yes, so it is the story of a 12-year-old girl named Maya Murtaugh, and she writes for her school paper and really wants to get a regular column on the paper, and is struggling to do so. She just hasn't been able to find a story that's good enough to convince the paper's advisor. So as she's heading into a new school year, she's thinking over the summer about how she's going to get her big break at the paper. And as it so happens, her parents let her choose the family summer vacation spot this year. And she decided that they should go to Black House, which is in the mid-coast area of Maine and is the home of her favorite author of all time, Augusta Black, who is now deceased. But Maya's going to stay at her favorite author's house. And she just knows that it's going to be spooky and creepy, kind of based on the types of stories that Augusta Black writes. And she thinks, maybe I can find a good story here, or it's the perfect place to spark some inspiration. So she and her family get to the house, and then of course it's appropriately stormy and gloomy, and there's a creepy caretaker who kind of greets them at the house. And when she gets there, she realizes that the house is not at all what she was expecting. She starts to get suspicious, and kind of as the story unfolds, she realizes that there's definitely a mystery there for her to solve.
Oh, cool. Is it just a coincidence that your story takes place in the home of Stephen King?
No, it's not a coincidence. So, I actually got the idea for this book on a family vacation to Maine. My mom used to live in Maine. She doesn't anymore, but she did up until a few years ago. And, so my family, my husband, my kids and I used to go there every summer. And one year while we were there, my stepfather mentioned, and he said, it's not that far to drive up the coast and go to Bangor, where Stephen King lives, if you guys wanted to do that someday while you're here. Because my husband and I are both Stephen King fans. So my husband's like, we got to do it. Let's do it. Let's, take a road trip. And so, he and I did that. And then when I got home from the vacation, I thought, that could be a really cool premise for a story, that you go to your favorite author's house, but you get to stay there. Like it's been converted into like an Airbnb type situation. And you actually get to, go inside and, see the space where they wrote their stories. And, the idea took off from there. So yeah, definitely there's a few kind of subtle nods, I think, to Stephen King, which, not that readers of this book would necessarily understand those probably, but it was fun for me as a big fan to put those in there.
Awesome. I've mentioned this on the show before. I was a huge Stephen King fan. I remember reading The Stand, all 1,500 pages of it, and just loving it. And then, and I loved all sorts of horror books, and I was reading halfway through an Anne Rice novel when my son was born. And when we came home from the hospital and I went back to read the book, I think I read a page and go, nope, I don't want to go here anymore. I'm a dad. Nope. And a couple years back, I listened to a Stephen King audiobook as I drove cross country and enjoyed it. But still, I'm like, I don't know if I want to go back to that world anymore.
Yeah, I get that. My tolerance for horror novels has definitely decreased a bit since becoming a mother. I'm a little bit more selective with the types of stories that I will read now, but yeah, still a big fan. I started reading Stephen King when I was in middle school because at that point in time, there was the Goosebumps series, R.L. Stine, which I loved. But then it was kind of like once you got too old for that, there wasn't really anywhere to go but to start reading books that were intended for adults. And so, I was so thrilled. I mean, I started out writing picture books, and then I realized that there's this whole spooky middle grade genre, which I think fills this gap that existed when I was a kid. And so I'm so happy that there's these, transitional books in that space. And thought, man, I'd really like to try my hand at writing one. And was just very fortunate that it worked out. And the first one I wrote wound up getting published. So that was fantastic.
Yeah. I think there's a real, I was going to use the word therapeutic, but I don't think that's the right word. But there's a real benefit for kids reading spooky books because I think it helps them work out, how they might handle themselves in a difficult situation.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that, it's helpful for kids to see hard situations that characters face, but maybe sometimes situations that aren't fully grounded in reality, monsters that can be kind of symbolic for some of the things that you might face in real life, and to see that those characters can overcome those really scary things. And I also think it's just kind of nice sometimes to have that escape from reality too, and, read about something that, can be scary, but in a fun way. I remember as a kid, even when I was at picture book reading age, I'm blanking on the name of it now, but there's the children's book about the house that's like on chicken feet, and it's kind of creepy, and that was one of my favorites when I was a kid. And I remember thinking, like, it's kind of fun to be scared, not too scared, but a little bit scared, kind of like the same thing of like going on a roller coaster or something like that, and so I think that that's something that can be really nice about those kinds of books too, is being scary, but not so over the top that it's not fun.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Kids do love to be scared. Adults love to be scared. That's one of the draws that brings people to Salem. I think there's a half dozen haunted houses in Salem during the month of October, and I've taken my kids and my niece to haunted houses, and they just love being able to run and scream and yell and then laugh together at the end.
Yeah. Yeah, we just, my family and I actually just got back last week. We went on a family vacation, and we went to a water park. And that was what my daughters, they're 7 and 9, had said was one of the most fun things was going on the rides where they got to scream. That was something that they really liked.
I tell you that one of the haunted houses I went to creeped me out completely. There was a little girl, or I assume it was an actor, an adult actor who was very small in stature, but she was just on a bed, rocking back and forth, and then did the Linda Blair, turned the head all the way around. And I'm like, all right, I'm out. Tell me, what you've written picture books and middle grade novels. Is it hard for you to switch back and forth, or is it there's just a little switch in your head and you just move through effortlessly?
No, it's definitely not effortless. It's a lot different. And I think what was interesting about moving into the middle grade space was, with picture books, I've gotten more comfortable, and I feel like, I know what I'm doing. I'm not a new kid on the block with that anymore. So it was a little bit challenging than moving into middle grade novels and feeling like going through the editorial process, like, I don't feel like I fully know what I'm doing with this. Like, it's very different, and having to get used to that. But at the same time, I like a challenge. I started out writing picture books in prose, and then I started writing rhyming picture books, and now I'm doing middle grade novels too. And we'll see. I feel like at some point I'll probably do something else different. I do think for me at least, it's fun to mix it up. And sometimes too, after going through edits on a certain book, it's hard for me to be able to then write something similar, because it does kind of take a lot out of you, to be going through a long editorial process and be really immersed in a book for a while. But at the same time, I feel like it's hard for me to not write for too long. So switching to something different is a way to kind of take a break from, something that I've worked really hard on for a bit without stopping writing completely. So I found that it's nice to be able to switch back and forth.
Any thoughts of creating a middle grade novel in verse?
I have thought about that. I haven't read many middle grade novels in verse until recently. It's something that I just got into, and it's interesting because I do write rhyming picture books. And so I thought, oh, poetry in a middle grade novel. That's interesting. But I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know if that's totally up my alley. I enjoy them, but I don't know that writing them feels like my thing. So maybe something to ponder down the road. But at this point, I don't have any plans to do anything like that right now.
Jumping back to the 13 Doors of Black House, is there significance about the 13 doors?
Yes. So, when Maya, the main character, gets to the mansion, she really wants to see the room where Augusta Black wrote her stories. And her expectation from the research that she's done about going on this trip is that she's going to be able to walk right into the room, maybe sit down at the desk where Augusta Black wrote her stories. And she's really excited to do this and feels like this is going to give her this creative spark that she needs. But when she gets to the room, there's this huge wall of glass in front of it, and she can't go inside. And the mansion's caretaker says, that it's there to preserve the history of this famous author's space and that guests are not allowed in the room. But what Maya notices is that there's 13 doors inside the room, and they all have these eerie symbols carved on them. But she can't fully see what they all are because she can't get inside the room and some of the doors are pretty far away. But the more she starts to think about the symbols, the more she suspects that they might correspond with the titles of Augusta Black's books. And so this is something that she becomes really curious to figure out. So she's on the vacation with her extended family. So some of her cousins are there, and she convinces a couple of her cousins who are the same age as her to, I won't say like break in, but figure out a way to enter the room so that they can get a better look at these doors and kind of figure out what's going on. And as the story goes on, I don't want to give too much away, but there's kind of some different spooky things that start happening that Maya suspects are tied to the doors as well.
Awesome. Tell me, what scares you?
Oh gosh. I think I'm scared by those moments that make your spine stiffen and kind of make you think, oh, is something bad going to happen? Like in a scary movie, if there's a scene that's kind of lingering on a closet door and you're wondering if someone's going to pop out of the closet, or, if it's a character sitting on a bed and you're wondering if an arm's going to shoot out, from under the bed and a hand's going to grab them. That's the kind of stuff that just sets my spine on edge. Like that kind of suspenseful, like type of thing, is really what scares me. But that's not typically the kind of stuff I write. But yeah, that's the stuff that really gets me in books and movies.
You mentioned that you just got back from a vacation with your daughters. Are they spooky middle grade fans?
So my older daughter is just starting to become one. She at first said that she didn't like scary books, and I said, that's fine. Read what you want. She's huge into Wings of Fire and those kind of fantasy series novels. But she decided to give my book a try, and I told her no pressure. If you don't like it or if you think it's scary, you don't have to read it. But she read it and she enjoyed it. And so then I thought, well, if she liked this, what's something that I feel like maybe has kind of a similar vibe? Oh, she had also read Fleur Bradley's books before. So Midnight at the Barclay Hotel and Daybreak on Raven Island. And she really enjoyed those. So I've kind of started giving her books by other authors that I think she would like. So I recently gave her Mary Averling's books, The Ghosts of Butterfly Bay and The Curse of Eelgrass Bog, and she loved those. So I think she's officially now a spooky middle grade fan, but this is a very new development over the past 2 months or so.
Well, that's the way you build up the audience, one new reader at a time.
Yeah.
After your daughter read the book, did she sit down and ask you, why did you do this? And how come you didn't do that? And what was Maya thinking when she did this?
She asked me a lot about different twists in the story and kind of told me, this is what I thought was going to happen. But then this happened. And she asked me which character I thought she was the most like in the story, which I thought was kind of an interesting question. Like, if she was going to be one of the characters, which one would she be? The answer is Riley, for anyone who has read or read the book. That I think Riley is the most like my daughter. But yeah, she kind of had questions like that, or about like, you know, things related to the area that it was set in Maine and things like that, since we used to go to Maine a lot.
Yeah. That's what an interesting question to ask.
Yeah. Yeah. And she asked me too about her sister, and which character I thought she would be. And I think she was kind of wondering if I maybe based any of the characters on them or something, which I didn't. But then when we were kind of talking about it, I could see like, okay, yeah, this character does seem like the most like you. That probably, if you were going to, you know, play a role in the story, that's probably the role you would play, which is that character that I think she would identify with the most is the one that's kind of saying, guys, maybe we shouldn't do this. Like, maybe this isn't a good idea. That's kind of trying to be the voice of reason while the rest of them just kind of keep getting themselves into trouble.
You know, when I was your daughter's age, I was turned on to an author here in New England. His name was Edward Rose Snow. And he wrote all sorts of ghost stories set all over New England, especially in Massachusetts and Maine. And he was a great author. And he was one, I think I started reading him after he made a school visit to my elementary school.
Oh, that's awesome. I don't recall ever having any authors visits when I was a kid. So that must have been a really great experience.
It was. I remember clearly. I remember him coming, and also the wife of H.A. Ray.
Okay.
It was after the author passed away. And interestingly enough, my son was absolutely terrified of the man with the big yellow hat in Curious George. I was never able to read a Curious George book to my son.
Yeah.
It was great. Do any, in writing this book, was there any moment that really surprised you when, you know, or any twists and turns that the story took that really surprised you?
Yeah, I am more of a pantser by nature, which is, you know, you just write the book as you go. You don't sit down and do an outline first. I've had to become a little bit more of a plotter now, to not dig myself into holes. But yeah, since this was my first time writing a middle grade novel, I really just kind of figured out a lot of it as I went along. So I like doing that because I think it's fun to be surprised as the author too, and to kind of develop characters and then just have the story go where it seems like it would naturally go based on those characters' personalities and what they would decide to do in that moment. Mm-hmm. So there were definitely some twists that I threw in there and different things that I hadn't planned to have happen from the start. And then both my literary agent and my editor kind of encouraged me to add more twists than I had in there to begin with. So that was fun too, trying to think of additional new ways that I could kind of steer readers in a different direction and have them maybe think something was going to happen or put a red herring in there or something like that.
Very cool. I like that. Is there a formula or a technique that you use to do those plot twists or cliffhangers?
I try to think about, you know, what's going to be unexpected. What is something that when I'm doing a plot twist, I want it to be something where maybe there's some sort of hint at some point in the story that something like that is going to happen. I personally don't like it when plot twists just come completely out of nowhere and maybe don't seem realistic. But what I like is when there's maybe a hint somewhere, but it's subtle. And afterwards you'll be like, oh, I missed that. So that's kind of what I try to do. Sometimes I think enough ahead where I can plant something like that early on, and other times I don't, and I just make the twist happen. And then I try to think, can I go back and put something somewhere in the story that maybe subtly alludes to the fact that this could happen so that it doesn't feel like it's completely out of left field for the reader. So it's really a mix. I don't necessarily follow a set formula, but I think that that's what's important for me. When I read a book, I don't like to feel like something that happens is just so out of the blue that it kind of doesn't fit with the story.
Yeah, yeah. We should tell everybody where they can go to find out more about the 13 Doors of Black House and find out more about you.
Yeah. So you can find the book anywhere the books are sold, but if you go to the Hachette page, or if you search the 13 Doors of Black House in Hachette or Union Square Kids, which is the imprint, it'll take you to more information about the book. And they have convenient links there that link to kind of all the popular bookstores and various places that you could order from online. So that's a good place to find out more information about the book. And if you want to learn more about me, my website is lauralavoieauthor.com. And I have more information about all of my books on there, links to my social media, all of that good stuff.
We've had a great time speaking to the author of The 13 Doors of Black House. It's a new middle grade novel from our guest, Laura Lavoie. Hey, Laura, thanks for being on Reading with Your Kids.
Thanks so much for having me.
Hey, my friends, you know one of my favorite parts of the day is story time. There's just something magical about snuggling up with your kids, opening a great book, and escaping into an adventure together. And let me tell you, that moment becomes even more magical when you're curled up in the softest, coziest bedding you've ever felt. That's why I'm so excited that CozyEarth.com is supporting Reading with Your Kids. Their bamboo sheets, comforters, and pajamas are unbelievably soft, naturally breathable, and temperature regulating, which means no more sweaty nights or chilly toes. Right now, Cozy Earth is offering Reading with Your Kids listeners an unbelievable and exclusive 41% off their entire site. That's right, you heard me right, 41% off. So go ahead, create your own cozy reading nook, wrap yourself and your kids up in something comfy, grab your favorite bedtime book, and turn story time into the best part of your day. Head on over to CozyEarth.com and use the promo code READ at checkout to save 41%. That's CozyEarth.com, promo code READ. Hey, my friends, I have a super idea you are going to love. How about this weekend, turn your backyard cookout into a storybook celebration? Fire up the grill, crack open a few of your favorite picture books, and serve up Big Fork Brand's legendary bacon sausage. Made with nitrate-free bacon and premium pork, it's juicy, smoky, and unforgettable. Top it off with Big Fork's spicy Chicago fire sauce, and you've got a meal as bold as the characters in your favorite bedtime tale. Get 20% off your order using the promo code READ at bigforkbrands.com. That's bigforkbrands.com. Promo code READ to get 20% off, because nothing brings families together like great food, great books, and a whole lot of flavor. Big Fork Brands. Read, grill, repeat. Join us right now from Austin in the great state of Texas. Our guest is here today to celebrate her new middle grade novel. It's called The Vesta Chronicles, Sun Chaser. Please welcome to the show, Shannon Lynn. Hey, Shannon, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Delighted to have you on. This is from the notes, I see that this is a dystopian novel. Tell us about the universe you've created for this.
Okay, so it's really not in the not-so-distant future, and the story is split set between space and a dystopian Texas hill country. So, I live here in Austin now, and the hill country is just a couple of miles away, and we go out there all the time, and it's beautiful, and I just had this idea of wanting part of this story to not only be set in the South, because I grew up in Louisiana and go back to Louisiana often too, and I love writing the South. I wanted to write the South in this dystopian universe and in this distant future. So, half of the book is set in space and half is set in hill country.
Man. And are you able to tell us what caused the dystopia to create? Was it my friend ChatGPT?
Yeah, probably a little bit. The book doesn't go into great detail, but suggests that civilization has just come to an end due to lots of wars, lots of disputes, and basically people focusing more on differences than our similarities. So it's a little vague, but not dissimilar from what we see in the world these days, right? And so without going into great detail of what caused the fall, we have our protagonist navigating a world where he has lived entirely in space. He's never lived a terrestrial life at all. In fact, he's a fifth generation kind of space cadet. And so it's a little opposite of what we sometimes do with science fiction in the movies and in books where, you know, the Earthling is traveling to this other planet. This is the opposite. Generations and generations have only lived in space at this point. Because they had to leave Earth due to things falling apart. And so, not to give anything away, but our protagonist does end up on this terrestrial, you know, planet that he's only heard about and read about in school.
Wow. You know, I have to say, through the magic of technology, which hopefully doesn't send us into this dystopia, you are so animated as you're talking about your novel. It's obvious that you really have great affection for this world that you've created.
Yeah. You know, it was inspired actually. So I'll talk a little bit about the setting in space. This world, the Vesta, the dystopian of Vesta is actually the name of his ship. And it's part of a fleet of ships that are sailing around in space. And I say sailing because they're motorized and propelled by solar sail. And so the idea that just like on Earth where we have real sailboats that move on water through, you know, by wind, photons and sun rays are actually what are propelling these ships from point A to point B in space. And I was inspired to create these ships and write this in this way because I was a competitive sailor growing up and spent a lot of time sailing along the Gulf Coast, in this highly competitive way on these one design boats. And it was such a big part of my upbringing. And as it is with a lot of people, whatever the sport may be and whatever the thing is that you latch on to, you know, in those early teen years where you just get all in and you want to know everything about the sport, you want to, you know, and so with this competitive sailing I was a part of, it was the rigging, it was the spars, it was learning all the points of sail, how fast can we get from point A to point B. It was very scientific, very technical. And it built such a foundation of independence for me as a, you know, young 12, 13, 14-year-old that honestly still today, I think I am the independent person I am because of that experience. And I've always wanted to be able to capture some of that excitement that kids can have when they learn that new thing and they get so involved and they want to go all the way. You know, they're going to go to state championships, national championships, maybe the Olympics, you know, that motivation. So that's kind of where the idea for the solar sailing came into play. And solar sails are real. It's actually, that part's not actually science fiction. NASA and all of our great scientists around the world have already been using the solar sailing technology, not manned ships. That's the part that's fictional.
Uh-huh.
And that's the part that's fun.
That's so cool. I really love when we're able to take fiction and kind of blend it in with fact. And I think it's a great way to learn.
Yeah. I like to say, I mean, this is almost real science fiction and technology, right?
Yeah. You're talking about how big an impact sailing had on you as a young person. I think that's these activities that kids get involved in, like sports, dance, sailing, they can be such a game changer for kids. Mm-hmm. I know I just get together with some of the guys I played soccer with in high school 50 plus years ago. And
that's so awesome.
The things that you learn, and when the thing that you mostly learn is how to depend on yourself and how to be there for others.
Absolutely. And I tell people sometimes there's themes of independence in this book and interdependence.
Mm-hmm.
There's only so far we can go independently, and we need others and others need us. And I really enjoyed writing those themes into the book because I was both a single-handed sailor and a sailor as a part of a junior team. And it's a certain skill set to be out there in 3 and 4 foot waters by yourself on a small boat when a storm's coming in and you're capsizing left and right. And you just have to have the strength and the stamina knowing that you can get through, you can get back up, you can get that boat upright again, and you can get back to harbor. But it's also important whenever you're on those teams that you're working together. And that was a different skill set too. And we could do so much more. You can learn so much more with that, with the team.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree.
Has science fiction always been something that has fascinated you?
Yes, but it's not necessarily my number one thing. I was born in '81, so Star Wars was pretty big as it still is for so many people, right?
Uh-huh.
And those were the first films, like a lot of people, in my generation, and those first films really stick with you. Those dynamics, and the exploratory nature of, and the mission-based plot lines of those movies, I think were a foundation for me. But also, Fahrenheit 451 was a really big book for me in high school. And Ray Bradbury's work, even though I think that we would consider that pretty light on the sci-fi now, so much of the technology that's in that book is kind of real at this point. But what's interesting about sci-fi is it's fun and adventurous, and it's an escape. And I think that that's so important for us as adults and kids. You want to be able to get out of sometimes the hard day to day. But even when you're exploring these fantastical realms, that's where you can really play with morality and ethics and really dive into, okay, what does it mean to do the right thing in this scenario, in that scenario, in such a creative way that's beyond our day-to-day work and school, right?
Yeah, I love it. And I think, too, sci-fi is one of those things that is easily enjoyed in intergenerational friendships.
Mm-hmm.
I have a niece who a few years ago I would love to go out and kick the soccer ball around with, but now she's much bigger and stronger, and I'm much older and weaker and shorter, and I can't do that anymore. But we can go and watch a great sci-fi movie or read a sci-fi book and talk about it.
Right. And it doesn't really matter the age of the protagonist.
Mm-hmm.
You can connect.
Mm-hmm.
Kids, parents, grandparents, they can all kind of connect with the sci-fi genre.
Speaking of age, you decided to create this as a middle grade novel. What was the thinking behind that?
Well, I'm an overly involved aunt, and I have 2 nephews who are, they're 9 and 11, or turning 9 and 12 actually. And, my sister followed me to Austin quite a few years ago and decided to move about 2 miles down the street from me. And I told her at the time, I said, if we're going to live in the same city, we should live just 2 or 3 miles away from each other, because as you know, in a big metro area, you can live just 6 miles apart and it can take 45 minutes to see each other, right?
Uh-huh.
So her being so close allowed me to help out a lot, even though full-time day job and education here in Austin, I would get those kids in the afternoons and evenings and on the weekends. And we started going on these adventure walks when the oldest was just 4 and 5 years old. And on these adventure walks, we would always role play characters and plot lines that were often space-based, because the kids were really involved in Star Wars too and some of those stories. But then we would create our own characters and our own missions. Well, we're walking in these little trails and hiking trails around Austin, which is kind of very hill country-esque, which I think is where the inspiration came from for this one character. There was this one picture I had of my oldest nephew in a clearing, and he was wearing one of these cute silver space jackets that I had gotten him, back when you feel like you can trust your young nephews and nieces, and they'll wear whatever you buy them. And he looked like in this moment, this space cadet who had landed on Earth for the first time, and he was holding this little piece of grass in his hand, like he had never seen a piece of grass before. And he didn't know what he was doing. You know, he was about 5 at the time, and he was just in the moment. But in that moment, I saw this character and this little storyline play out of a whole civilization that didn't exist on Earth anymore and had to leave Earth for all the reasons, environmental, political, war, all of it. And so I kind of wrote some notes, did some outlines, wrote a couple of chapters, put it in a drawer, worked on some other Southern fiction I'd been working on. And then 2 years ago, I realized, as a lot of people do, these kids are, oh my gosh, they're already 7, they're already 8, they're already 10 years old. If I'm going to write this story where they can read it while they're still young and appreciate it, I have to finish this yesterday. So that was the motivation to go ahead and complete it, go through the full editorial, full publishing process so that they would be able to read it now while they're in elementary school and, you know, one going into 6th grade. So that was the inspiration.
I love it. I love it. Now, I'm guessing that the Vesta Chronicles Sun Chaser is the first in a series?
It is the first in a series.
Yeah.
I'm working on book 2. I'm hoping book 2 will come out mid to late 26.
Wonderful. The whole idea of a human growing up in space, and then that's kind of easy to imagine, but a 5th-generation human who has lived in space and never been to a terrestrial world coming
right.
back. Boy, I don't know. That's much harder and much more fun to imagine.
Right. And, you know, one of the motivations for that is I'm a big genealogy person, and I've really kind of tried to take over what my grandparents have done with their genealogy research. And I've always found it fascinating to understand and know what it was like for my great-grandparents, my great-great-grandparents, because for us, 100 years ago seems, oh, life was so different. And once those great-grandparents are gone and the great-greats are gone, there's this disconnect. Mm-hmm. You know, you can't go to the source anymore. You mm-hmm. can't ask what it was really like from the person who was there. All you have is stories. Yeah. And you think about how things get watered down generation to generation. And, you know, we have, you know, modern world, we have photography and we have books and we know in general, but we don't really know. And I started thinking, what would that be like in this futuristic space environment where, okay, the stories have been passed down of what life was like on Earth, but what made it and what didn't, what got passed down, what got left behind, what got, maybe misunderstood over time or mistold over time. So I think that dynamic's really interesting.
Yeah. Boy, that idea that we misunderstand. There's so much of that, you know, we've so much, for example, one of the things that I've learned recently is, we think of the Amazon as this place that's just this vast forest and nothing, very few people, a couple of tribes lives here and there. But we're coming to find out now that the Amazon was this magnificent culture with huge cities all spread all throughout the Amazon.
Right.
It's wild.
It is.
Yeah. You mentioned you love writing about the South. What is it about the South that you love so much?
It's culture, it's people. We play music in my house. I grew up around music. In South Louisiana, there's a lot of Cajun music, happening. There's jazz. It's lively. People come together, and people of different backgrounds, people of different political persuasions come together in that one uniting factor of good, clean fun, good music, good dancing. I'm still drawn to that. And, here and in Central Texas, we have great music too. We love going to the honky tonks around Hill Country. I encourage everyone who comes to Central Texas to go to some of these old historic honky tonks where you're going to hear some great country bands and fiddle players and strings. And it's such a place. I like it because, I think people can come together, and it's kind of like some of the themes of the book. what do we have in common? You know, we all come from so many different backgrounds and so many different experiences. So the South is very relaxed. You know, you meet a lot of people down here that are that are just ready to kick back and talk. And you know, what was your day like today? You know, and yeah, I think that would be my answer is culture and people. Yeah. And music and food. Can't leave out the food. We've got some pretty good barbecue and Cajun Creole cuisine, but you know, between here and New Orleans.
Yeah, my daughter would come out when she was younger in high school. She went to a really cool international high school, so she had lots of long vacations. So she would come out on tour with me, and oftentimes she would come out with me when I was touring the South. And she adored it. Her high school was in downtown Boston. And she would say to me, in Boston, I get off, I'm walking to my school, a 35-year-old man would bump into me and snarl at me. And meanwhile, down south, if someone steps just in front of you by accident, they're very apologetic and they're friendly and they're kind. And you meet somebody 10 minutes later, you know their whole life story.
Right. That's definitely true. It's that whole phrase, you know, you never meet a stranger, and people can greet you as if they have known you their whole life, and that's such a great community to be a part of. You know, that it contributes to that sense of community. It contributes to friendships too. We've made new friends just in, you know, we're in our 40s now, and make new friends as if we have, you know, been hanging out for decades, and we've actually only hung out a few times because of, you know, just that manner.
Yeah. But the one thing I did learn is when someone says, bless your heart, doesn't mean we
it's not necessarily the kindest thing to say. That's true.
Now, I'm interested in the culture. What's the culture like in space? Is there some Southern culture sprinkled?
Oh, yeah. Well, so that's interesting. Another dynamic I was really excited to write about. So our protagonist, Tom Raynor, he's a curious little fellow. He's really fun. I think everyone's going to really enjoy meeting him. What motivates him is within the discipline of Vesta, the mothership, everyone gets tracked, kind of like an elite academy situation. At some point in time, you're going to choose a track, and whatever that academic track is, you're stuck with it. You're set. But there's an elite track that you have to test into, which kind of carries some military space fleet type tropes and rankings, and that's where the competition comes in, and a lot of dedication. And so our protagonist, that's what he wants. He wants to get into the squadron. He wants to be an elite light sailor. And it's very few make it into the squadron, and very few graduate. So he's so motivated by that desire, and partly because even though he's never seen a world outside of the Vesta, he's bored. So like so many of our students in school, he's bored of just the generics, the basics that he's learning, and he wants to explore. He wants adventure, and he lives in this monochromatic world. Everything is, the whole ship is gray, black, white. There's no color. Space outside, you know, depending on where the ship's sailing, there may not be any sunlight coming into the Vesta at all. It's all artificial, not that they know any different, outside of for instance, like anyway, I don't want to get too much into the weeds there, but, he wants to know more, and he's had enough schooling and enough education to know that if he can become an elite light sailor, that he can go on these missions. And he can get outside of the Vesta, and it might just be to an asteroid, or it might just be, traveling in space. He doesn't really know. He just knows there's something more out there than what he has seen. So, I don't know if that answers your question, but.
I love it. It's, this sounds like a fascinating book and a lot of fun. You said to us it's going to be a series. Is it any chance, we don't usually ask this, but this sounds like a perfect book for an audiobook.
I've been asked that. It's after book 2 comes out, I'm gonna explore what my options are there. But yeah, I've had some requests for that. It's not available now. Right now, it's paperback, hardback, ebook on Amazon and other online retailers. It went wide just last week, so Barnes and Noble, Books A Million, Bookshop.org for your indie bookstores, and a couple of other retailers there. But yeah, no audiobook yet, but I'm working on that after book 2 comes out.
Well, I like that. Yes, no audiobook yet.
Yeah.
And I think you'd be the perfect narrator for it, too.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Why don't we tell everybody where they can go to find out more about the Vesta Chronicles, Sun Chaser, and find out more about you?
Absolutely. Best place to go is shannonlynnauthor.com. I'm updating the website pretty regularly with events. For instance, I have a book signing in Georgetown, just north of Austin, in a couple of weeks, and a few other local bookstores are going to be doing some events with me. So as those get booked, I will put those up there. Shannon Lynn Author on Instagram is my most active social media account, and also the Vesta Chronicles book series for Facebook. So those are the 3 locations you can go to. And if you check out the book and you have questions for the author or about the story, I just got a email in from a reader fan this week, and those are my favorite, being a teacher and all. So I highly encourage you to just use the contact form on the website and reach out if you have questions.
Wonderful. We've had a great time speaking to the author of the Vesta Chronicles, Sun Chaser, new middle grade novel from our guest, Shannon Lynn. Hey, Shannon, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you so much. Really enjoyed it.
Thanks for joining us here on Reading with Your Kids. If you're an author with a fantastic children's book, we'd love to hear from you. If you go to readingwithyourkids.com, click on the Authors Click Here button up at the top of the page. That way you can find out how you can be a guest and tell thousands of Kidlit fans all over the world about your fantastic children's book. We'd also love for parents, caregivers, grandparents, educators, listeners to the show to visit readingwithyourkids.com so you can visit our Certified Great Read Wall of Fame and find every episode of Reading with Your Kids. When you get to readingwithyourkids.com, you can click on the landing page there. There's a big button that says click here to find every episode. When you get to that page, there's a great little search bar. So if you want to listen to our first conversation with LeVar Burton back in 2018, just enter LeVar Burton up at that search tool and the episode will pop right up. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to share it with your friends, your kids' teachers, the librarian, the youth pastor, the crossing guard, and leave a 5-star review and subscribe. It really does help us grow. That's sincere. It is a big, big help. Want to thank our guests. Please be sure to check them out. Shannon Lynn, please be sure to check out the Vesta Chronicles Sun Catcher. Also, Laura Lavoie, check out the 13 Doors of Black Horse. Want to thank our incredible sponsors, Zevo.life, BigForkBrands.com, and CozyEarth.com. When you use our promo code READ, you score a great deal, and we may earn a small commission that helps keep the podcast magical and free for families everywhere. I want to thank my incredible team, Fatima Khan, Chris Doherty, El Glassman, Dante Greco. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we want to thank you. Every time you read with your kids, you're creating magic and making the world a better place. I'll be looking to you in the next episode of Reading with Your Kids.
Hey, hey, here we go, Lord, let's sing it loud. Get ready for the fun and never feel down. Step into the light, let your colors show. Each and every one of you, let your spirit glow. Jump up high, reach for the sky. With every little heartbeat, you were born to fly. You are amazing. You are amazing. You shine so bright. When the clouds are gray and you feel all alone, just look inside yourself, there's a heart of gold. With every single smile you can light the way. You have the power, let your joy stay. So lift your head high, stand tall and proud. You're unique in this world, shout it out loud. With friends by your side, we can reach our dreams. Together we're a team, bursting at the seams. You are amazing, you are amazing. You shine so bright, you shine so bright. There's no one else like you, you're a delight. You are amazing, you are amazing. Take on the world, it's your time to ignite. You are amazing, you are amazing. You are amazing, you are amazing. Every little challenge is part of the fun. You can tackle them all, you're the chosen one. With laughter and kindness, we will soar so high. Let your heart shine like a limitless sky. You are amazing, you are amazing. You shine so bright, you shine so bright. There's no one else like you, you're a delight. You are amazing, you are amazing. Take on the world, it's your time to ignite. You are amazing, just believe. With every step, take that leap. Together we can change the game. With love in our hearts, we'll make our name.